Right, Amrit, stay with us. Dr. Fernando, while addressing the parliament after winning the election, Ranil Wickremesinghe said, our divisions are over. Are the political divisions really over? Do you think a national unity government will be formed next?
Thank you very much. I mean, first thing, Honorable Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, six-time Prime Minister, has been appointed as the eighth executive president. He needs a short-term and a long-term plan. In the short run, he has to bring the inflation down from 70% to 25%, and as well as bring down long fuel kills and cut short these power cuts. Secondly, the political volatile nation needs consensus from the opposition. In the short run, within the next 6 months, election should be called in. That will ease off the political burden and this kind of protest. And also to be sensitive to
which election are you referring to, Dr. Fernando? Are you saying that a presidential election should be called early because we understand that he is going to serve the rest of the term of Gotabaya Rajapaksa as president, which ends only in November 2024?
That was the initial, during the last 4-5 months, the protesters as well as the opposition was demanding the resignation and an election to be held within the next 6 months. Whether it's going to be a general election or a presidential election is a must within the next 6 months. I mean, that will ease off the political burden and bring stability. Also, the country needs $6 billion from multilateral organization to bring about stability to the nation. So these are areas that he could work on a short-term and long-term way to bring about political consensus across the political strata and the landscape. Yeah.
Okay. What are you hearing, Amrit, from leaders of other political parties? For instance, from Dulas, from even Premadasa, who had opted out of the race earlier. Are you seeing any signs of the opposition standing with Ranil Wickremesinghe in this hour of crisis, or do you think what we've been seeing over the past few months is going to continue with the opposition waiting for the government to fail again?
I think the opposition leaders, or even, well, we can't call Dallas opposition because he's still the member of the SLPP. He's an MP of the SLPP. So if SLPP remains the opposition, the ruling party, I don't know if Dallas can be called an opposition leader, though he had the backing of the opposition member MPs today in his candidature for the position of the president. But, these leaders, Sajid, Dallas, even Disanaika, they will wait and see what Ranil's next step would be. After Ranil is sworn in inside the parliament tomorrow as the next president, then what does he do? Would he reach out to the opposition? He's in his victory speech in the parliament after his election, he did say that let's come together, let's work together and give people the change in the system that they've been asking for. So he's extending a hand of friendship for them, but I don't know if that was a signal. I think Dr. Fernando can explain that better for forming a national unity government, because he had promised to step down once a national unity government was formed. Now that he's become the president, he in any case resigns. But will he appoint his Prime Minister and his cabinet from the rest of the, make it a national unity, or would, given the brute numbers that they have, they need 113 in the House, they secured 134. So clearly they are well way past the halfway mark. So would it just be a symbolic national unity government? Because, remember, all that transpired in the parliament today wasn't really a vote for Ranil. Ranil may have become the president, but it isn't Ranil who's won. It is the Rajapaksas who have won. They have clearly, Mahinda has clearly shown that he still holds sway over the SLPP. SLPP may be unpopular right now with the people of the country, but, well, the term of the parliament remains till August 2025, and he knows that, he's shown today, demonstrated effectively today, that he controls the SLPP, and now the SLPP-backed candidate is the next president of the country, so he will control the government as well. For him, it'll be, he's trying to save his political career, his political future, and reclaim the lost ground. So these leaders would be watching closely, waiting for Ranil to make the first move and then see what they would want to do. But in the public discourse, they would want to distance themselves from Ranil and say, well, we cannot join a regime, or they would want to be publicly seen as distancing, because that's the popular mood from something from a government which has the Rajapaksa's strength. In fact, I would request Dr. Fernando to give his view on this, please.
Right. So, Dr. Fernando, two questions for you. One, do you see a national unity government being formed? Is that something which Ranil Wickremesinghe would be wanting at this point in time, when he needs the support of all political parties? Also, the point that Amritpal has been making very emphatically, that this is not the victory of Ranil Wickremesinghe, this is the victory of the Rajapaksas. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, coming back to that question, I mean, I will put it this way. The newly appointed president got appointed from the parliament. So it is not the people's mandate. Normally a president comes through people's mandate, but he wants a system change, and the new president wants consensus from all parties. But how is he going to create an all-party consensus forum without the consensus of the people and the youth who are struggling for the last few months? Because these are people's concerns. So without being sensitive to the matter, if he just cuts across this thing with an agreement of a group or some individuals from the parliament, it will be a failure. So the best way forward is to test the people's mandate through an election. So within the next 6 months, this is what's the demand that has been coming right along for the last 9 months, asking for an interim government plus election to come around March. So that would be the best way forward. And within that time, if he forms a national government, it will have credibility and it will have power, because that will test the people's mandate and the people's struggle, or whatever the initiatives will be casted through the ballot. And the respective politicians will be selected, whether it's from the Rajapaksa regime or the opposition, who is suitable for the people will be selected. So the new president should take this initiative before certain things, in the short run. And in the long run, yes, all-party consensus forum or a political dialogue will work out with the election.
Right. As you talk about what really should happen over the next few months in the Sri Lankan polity, we've heard from the IMF chief as well as the central bank governor of Sri Lanka. The IMF chief is saying that we are hoping for talks with Sri Lanka to conclude on a bailout package, and the central bank governor has said that a number of economic reforms need to be now taken up. They include raising taxes, he says, also raising interest rates to tame inflation, cutting down on wasteful expenditure. So these are some of the reforms that he has pointed out. What do you think, Amrit, could be the first priority at this point in time?
Munmun, please repeat the last part of your question. What should be the what of what?
The first priority of Ranil Wickremesinghe as the president, not the acting president.
The first priority of Ranil Wickremesinghe. Okay. Well, the first priority of Ranil Wickremesinghe should be to win the trust of the people back, and that he can only do if he eases the suffering of the people. If you don't have food on your plate, you don't put your trust in someone. He needs to put food back on their plate. Second, he needs to ease their hardships, as I said, cooking gas, fuel, medicines, hospital functional, schools opening, life getting a semblance of getting back to normalcy. He needs to do that to inspire some confidence in people, and he needs to do that really fast, because remember, he's not a popular choice. If elections would have taken place today, take it in writing, nobody would disagree that Ranil would have ended way behind the Sanaika. The Sanaika has ended the last. He would have, ended way behind the Sanaika. It could have been, in fact, the reverse order: the Sanaika, then Dallas, and then Ranil. If the three candidates were electing and people were electing, were contesting, and people were electing the election, the president. Now he needs to, as I said, finish or ease hardships, and he needs to do that fast because the patience of the people is running out, and he, in any case, doesn't enjoy much confidence in people. So he needs to win that back. Second, when the central bank governor speaks, he speaks as a central bank governor. He may be right from his point of view, but raising taxes at this point in time, I don't think would be a politically wise thing to do. And Ranil and both the Ranil and the Rajapaksas, who will be the backroom boys in this government, would know that very well because they would have read the mood of the public very clearly. So I don't think they would take such a step, at least in the short term, because that would be amounting to committing political suicide, given the anger of the people. So, and then of course the other priorities of Ranil, as we've already listed out the challenges before him, he should be talking very quickly, concluding negotiations with the IMF as soon as possible, getting more money from abroad. There is hardly any reserves in the country. Talk to as many countries as possible: Russia, India, get more investments from India, see the role that India has played. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Indian. I'm saying that what I'm giving you is received wisdom of what I've spoken to people here, the people who are in know of things. That he should talk to more countries, get more money, talk to the Russians, get oil if he can, and get his economy and his foreign reserves back on track, so that the country can start running with some semblance of normalcy. Munmun.
Right. Also, Amrit, there were a demand earlier by the protesters to abolish the executive presidency altogether. Some very few reforms were announced, for instance, not calling the president His Excellency by Ranil Wickremesinghe earlier on before he was elected today. But that may not wash with the people. So, is there any sort of a discussion within the government on going down this path of abolishing the presidency? Any consideration? Has any opposition leader taken this up? Is this even any part of the discourse there?
I don't think the Rajapaksas would want Ranil to do that because they would want to keep power in their hands. They might make a few symbolic gestures here and there, like removing His Excellency. In fact, the people here where I was were saying that the lady who was making the announcement lied 225 times today when she said, "Honorable MP so and so come." So they don't even look at them as honorable. That's the sentiment on the street. They said, basically, they might make some piecemeal changes, but essentially the executive presidency would continue. I don't think they would bring the 19th Amendment. If Sajid would have, if this fellow Dallas Paruma would have come to power, Sajid party was suggesting that could happen. They could bring the 19th Amendment back, and they could have brought Sajid in as a prime minister. That was the deal cut between the two of them, and the power could shift back to the parliament and to the prime minister rather than from the president. But then there were again Sajid's Premadasa's political calculations behind them. Rather than respecting the people's demand, he would have wrapped it that way, that given the popular wish, I would want to do that. But of course, he had his own political calculations. But I don't think that would figure top on Ranil's agenda. They would want to consolidate power so that they can take decisive actions and, from the Rajapaksa's point of view, reclaim their political lost ground.
Right. Dr. Fernando, navigating the crisis in Sri Lanka won't be easy at all for Ranil Wickremesinghe, isn't it? And what do you think would be his order of priorities?
Yes, his order of priorities would be to bring down the inflation from 70% to 25% in the next couple of months. And also, the country will need $6 billion at least within another 5 months' time. And these are from the economic point. And also, the politically volatile nation needs political stability. So that he's trying to work out a consensus across party lines. So that's a short term one. And also, if we can work on a long term point like the elections, would be great. So that will bring stability to his presidency as well as bring some kind of economic, social, and confidence with external parties. As a foreign policy, he can work out with multilateral organizations like the IMF, the World Bank, as well as the neighboring countries. Especially with India, he will have to work out and bring about a solution that brings stability not only to Sri Lanka, to the Indian Ocean, as well as the neighboring country India. So these are short-term and long-term goals to bring about easiness to the citizens of the country, and also to reduce the fuel bill from $650 million per month to $350 million with efficient fuel distribution. Will start the business cycle gradually, and to bring stability to the rupee in the next few months. Yeah.
Right, Dr. Fernando and Amritpal